Hello everyone, welcome to our presentations about the AOL operating systems. My name is Gilbert Susanto, NIM 260-207-260, and we're going to present about three types of virtualization. Virtual. What is a virtual box? A virtual box is a open source virtualization where it is created by Oracle. The features of VirtualBoxes are first, it offers wide range of platforms. As you can see, there's Windows, Mac, Books, Linux, and even Solaris host. VirtualBox supports quite a wide range of GAS such as Windows, Linux, Solaris, and MacBooks. Shared folders, the folders, each each host and guest could share folders easily between the host and the guest. And for the cloning, the clone in the virtual machine of VirtualBox for deploying is similar across multiple environments. So when to choose VirtualBox? VirtualBox is ideal for students and educators because it is free to use. It is great for developers that need to test applications with different operating systems. It's also even good for individuals and even organizations to minimize costs without sacrificing virtualization capabilities. Mostly because VirtualBox is free to use. So what are the advantages and weaknesses? Let's go over to the right here. So the advantage of VirtualBox is it supports wide range of integrations and customized settings. And it's easy to use. It is user friendly as well, as you can see on the bottom here. It offers cross platforms support and flexibility, and it is very good as a desktop virtualization system. For the weakness, there are two. The error messages that could be vague. It's not quite clear the error message, and it could be difficult to know the issue. And lastly, it's limited upgrade or migrations options for the VirtualBox. That's it. Thank you.
My name is Marvin, and now I am going to talk about Docker. So what and why we should use Docker? Docker is a virtualization environment that is available for Linux, Mac, and Windows, but it is mostly used for server-side application, so it is mostly running in Linux. The purpose of Docker is to containerize application to enhance the security and consistency. What I mean by this containerization is that we are putting an application inside an isolated environment. So one container will not be able to interact with another container unless you make an explicit rule for it. So it also helps with consistency. What I mean by consistency here is to reduce the problem of application not working for a specific machine. So we know that sometimes software can run on one machine but not on another. So Docker solved this by having a virtual environment inside the container itself. So all we need to do is just to run the container and everything should be fine. There is still a possibility of container having problems, but it is like significantly smaller. Next, Docker images are portable where user can make and share Docker images. Moving data from one machine to another is also easy. So you can like make a Docker image and that contains everything inside it and to just give it to another person and they can just run it. The way Docker store data is using Docker volumes. So for example, if you have like one volume and you want to move it to another machine, you can simply like copy the folder of the volume to another machine. It is really easy to move around data. Next, with Docker, it is very easy to scale horizontally as you only need to add more containers to handle more workload. So in Docker, you can make like rules so that when a server is already like quite overwhelmed from requests, it will automatically add more container to handle like the workload. So it is very easy to scale horizontally. The next part is how Docker works internally. So Docker internally use Linux namespaces to isolate one container to another. So Linux namespaces is like a feature on Linux where you can like make a virtual environment. So process running in one namespaces is separated from another. So Docker on this right on this image on the right side here, you can see that Docker will create a service named container D, and this container D will contains the container itself. So to separate things, they will use namespaces and C groups. The next part is the advantages of Docker. So compared to traditional virtual machine, Docker is very light because it is not like the kind of virtual machine that we know. So we know that there is like type 1 and type 2 virtual machine, but Docker itself is not a virtual machine. It is more similar to a sandbox, and it achieves this isolation using Linux namespace that I already explained before. The next advantages is it is very easy to manage container inside Docker using Docker Compose. So Docker Compose itself is like a file where you can specify the settings for many containers and their like interaction. For example, you can set like one container to have to be in the same network with another container. You can also set up like the volumes for the container to write data. The next advantages is it is very portable. You can very easily move volumes and share your images to other people or like other machine. Docker also have a disadvantage. So since Docker is not really a virtual machine, it is not really like 100% isolated like a traditional virtual machine that we know. And at the image below here, you can see the difference. So Docker engine is running on the host OS, and using this Docker engine, it will create the container. On the right side is like the more traditional VM. So Gas OS and another type of virtual machine is running side by side within this hypervisor. So usually when people use Docker, they will run a Docker container as a less privileged account. So like not using like the root user to run the container, just in case if there is any security vulnerabilities, uh, the attacker will not be able to like access our whole system. The disadvantage of Docker is its high learning curve. So to use Docker, you need to understand how the Docker volumes work, how the network works, the interaction between container, images, and how to use Docker Swarm or Compose. Compared to like traditional virtual machine, you just like run the virtual machine and you can use it directly. But on Docker, you need to like learn these things first before you can use it effectively.
Good morning, Mr. Fani. I am Neilvan Thesman, and I will explain the VMware. VMware is a virtualization software that enables multiple operating systems to run as independent VMs on single physical machine. Why do we choose VMware? Now, first of all, it makes management easier due to its centralized nature. And then it guarantees zero downtime in migration processes. It also enables seamless integration between on-premises and public cloud workloads. And of course, there are many more reasons. Now let's talk about the advantages. VMware allows to share resources from a single physical server to multiple VMs, which increases resource efficiency because they can share CPU, RAM, or storage. So user will need less additional servers and lowering their capital and operational cost. The second advantage is that VMware solutions like vSphere enable easy scaling of resources. It means users can add CPU, memory, or storage to the VM without having to change the physical hardware itself. This is ideal for businesses with unpredictable or dynamic resource demands. The keyword is scalability. And the third advantage is VMware provides snapshot and replication features, which enable users to perform quick recovery for data or systems in case of hardware failures or disasters. This is important for maintaining continuity and minimizing downtime. Moving on to the weaknesses, VMware licensing fees are expensive, especially for enterprise solutions like vSphere or vCloud. Customers may end up paying for more licenses than they need, especially when the solution needed is related to scalability. And then the second weakness is VMware's various features can be overwhelming for new users or small business to operate, because setting up and managing VMware environments usually needs significant training and has a very high learning curve. And the last weakness is even if VMware enables virtualization, it heavily depends on underlying hardware to perform well. One of the example is ESXi hypervisor, so that users must invest more in high performance servers and storage system to ensure optimal performance. And then Marvin will explain Docker.
Okay, so I'm already at my Linux server terminal that I'm accessing using SSH. But before we install Docker here, it is a good idea for us to update our package registry. To do that, we cannot do it as a normal user. We need to change to the root user that we can do with this command. So I'm already running as root, and we can just type apt-get update. So what this does is that it will update the package registry to the latest version, but it does not actually install it yet. Okay, so to install, we can just write apt-get upgrade. Just write yes. Alright, so we already upgrade all of our system package. Now we are going to actually install Docker, but to do that, we need to add the repository to the apt source. So apt is the package manager here in Ubuntu. Oh, I'm sorry, Debian. So we can do that with just writing this command. Okay, so we already updated our apt source, and the next part is actually installing the Docker. So we can do that with this command. So what this command does is that it will download the Docker along with all of its necessary components. Alright, so Docker is already installed, and we can verify that by running the Docker command. Okay, so the Docker is, we can access it. So the next part is we are going to install a desktop environment inside the Docker. So for this one, I am going to use a Docker container called webtop. So to do that, we will make a Docker compose YAML file, and we are going to edit it. So So this is actually the kind of like the settings that we can change, and we are just going to remove all of the optional parts. And we definitely don't want this unconfined part because it will make it insecure. Okay, I think we are done here. We can just save. And yes, okay. Okay, I'm just going to check it once again to make sure. Okay, I think it's done. So the next part is that we are going to run this Docker Compose file, and we can do it with this command Docker Compose up. So what this does is that it will try to pull like the image from the Docker server to our machine. Okay, so we see that our container is already started, and now we can access our desktop environment in a web browser. Alright, so this is our desktop environment running in our Docker container. So this desktop environment already comes pre-installed with a web-based VNC, and so this is the reason why we can access it through a web browser. So above here, this is the IP address of my server, and it is listening on port 3000. We can just try to use it. So let's try to create an empty file. We can write something to it, save. Alright, so we can see that everything is working properly. So that's all for our demonstration of using Docker. Thank you.